Hey everybody, welcome to the Tony Kosack Show. Today we have Todd Stave, a serial entrepreneur from the DMV. So let's jump right in. Hey guys, just as a quick reminder, the purpose of this podcast is to help you go to the next level, to help you persevere. So I hope through these interviews with local business owners, you are finding the strength to keep on pushing. So make sure you stay tuned. Great. So today we have Todd Stave on the Tony Kosack Show, who is the co-founder of Cabin Cool Mobile Comfort, and is it Blue Vigil?
Yeah, Blue Vigil.
Blue, Blue Vigil. Todd, thanks for being on the show today. I really appreciate you taking time out of your day to join me. What I'd like to do is just kind of get an idea of um, what it is that you do, what it is that you specialize in, and really give us an idea of where that came from. So why don't we start off with what would you say that you do on a daily basis?
The companies that you mentioned are companies that I'm currently actively working with. Well, two of them anyway. One I still have some interest in work with them. The other two are basically I'm running. And uh, the list of companies is much longer than what you mentioned. I mean, what I do or what I've been doing since the financial crisis is building companies from the ground up, usually around new technologies. And once they become profitable or once they fail, I move on. And if they're
Okay.
profitable, if they're cash flow positive and they're making the investors money, I retain equity, but I find a replacement for myself, somebody who understands how to grow a company and scale a company, which is a very different skill set and very different set of disciplines than starting a company.
Right, right. Definitely. I can definitely see where you're coming from. It's kind of like it's combining where to find the clients, but one because you're really great at um, working with the clients. But as with all businesses, we've got to have a part of us that has to get out there and find clients as well. Is that what you're saying?
Right. Well, I mean, look, the starting a company it's hard. I mean, it's hard
Yeah.
for a lot of different reasons, but one of the reasons that it's hard is because the resources are limited. There's only a very finite amount of founding capital, and you can't employ big teams usually. You can't have the best software or equipment or manufacturing facilities or whatever. I mean, there's a lot of things that you don't have access to as a startup, and you have to figure out how to make the company profitable with the very limited number of resources. And as the person running it, I wear a lot of hats. As the company becomes a little bit more profitable and sales increase, maybe I can take some of those hats off and hire team members to do some things. But until you have a company with a repeatable process and something that's sustainable and a client list and all the things you need to become a profitable entity, you're a startup. And that's the way I look at things. And once you have all those things in place, then it's a different skill set to grow it than it is to start it. And
Right, right.
you
And
know,
I definitely see where you're coming from with that. One of the things I'd like to ask you, you said since the financial crisis, was there something that took place for you to go down this path after the financial crisis, or you just saw the opportunity and were thinking that, hey, this is probably something I could really do moving forward?
well, I had to make a pivot. I mean, for the about 10 or 12 years prior to that, my career involved buying underperforming small businesses and then fixing them up and then reselling them. And
Okay.
that was relatively easy to do as long as the businesses were not too complicated. So, for instance, you take a gas station on a good corner, but it's being managed poorly. It might be losing money or barely breaking even. Regardless, you can buy that business for a very little amount of money because the proprietor is struggling. I mean, he's not making a living, and maybe he's losing money and he's in jeopardy of losing his family's, whatever, his house or whatever it is. He's dying to get out of it. You can buy that, right? I don't know how to run a gas station, but I can find a manager who does, and put that manager in place and say, please, manage this business properly. And after 18 months or 2 years of running it, you can go and resell that as a profitable business for some multiple of EBITDA. That
Okay.
that was really, I made a lot of money doing that, by the way. I did pretty well with that. And I'd probably still be doing that if not for the financial crisis. I mean, once the financial crisis came along, the people who were buying those businesses from me could not get loans. I could get a loan because I had some experience and some net worth and whatever. But the people who were buying those gas stations, for instance, were maybe a retired postman who needed something to do and looked at gas stations as maybe an easy business to run. And before the financial crisis, all you really needed was good credit, maybe a little bit of assets, and a pulse to get a loan. I mean, really, it was very, very easy to get loans.
Okay.
Once banks started becoming more regulated and Sarbanes-Oxley was passed and some of the other financial rules were put into place that basically put some guardrails on the risks that banks could take, those less qualified people, those with less assets, those with less deposit money, could not get loans nearly as easily. And the only way I could go and sell these businesses then was if I wanted to hold paper, and I didn't. So
Ah, okay.
at that point, I really needed to find another way to sort of do the same sort of thing. And the opportunity presented itself to me that where I could use investors' money to start ideas or businesses that I, could easily wrap my head around and understand. A lot of them are not, or in the early days anyway, they're not super high tech stuff, and just a new way of doing things, a new process that was more efficient than the old one. And we had a little bit of a competitive advantage and some people that were willing to start a business around that, and that's kind of where that started.
That's really cool where you evolved after the financial crisis into taking your skill set into building these companies consistently over time and kind of not kind of but running them yourselves until they reach a certain point of exit. Does that sound about right?
Well, if the investors didn't want to sell them,
Okay.
then I'd find a replacement for myself.
Okay.
Uh, and sometimes, and in one case in particular, the investors did want to sell, and I was really having a good time. We were still growing pretty nicely, but a competitor came along and offered the investor group a deal that was too good to refuse. You don't have to feel sorry for me. I made out just fine, but I would have liked to have stayed there for probably another year or so and grown it some more and had the opportunity to really get a much bigger payday. But you know, I guess the saying goes, if you can't you can't go broke if you make a profit on what you got. So, you know, yeah, so,
Yeah.
and that's where they were.
Okay, okay. I mean, this is a very interesting skill set, Todd, where you're taking your ideas and you're getting them funded to then grow them into profitable businesses. What do you think it was, or that kind of got you started down this path of building things or wanting to build things?
I I guess the lack of patience. I don't know. Is the answer to the is the I listen, I've always been somebody who just liked to tinker with stuff and put it together, but I was not the kind of kid that, once I built the train set, I wanted to play with it. I just wanted to keep building it. I just enjoyed
Hmm.
the process of putting it together. When I had Legos, it was, as soon as I built the thing that I was building, I'd tear it apart and build another thing. And it's some people are like that. They just like building stuff.
Yeah.
Uh, and I'm one of those people. And, I've got a um, very strong understanding of business and sense of business. I got that, even before formal education from my parents, my grandparents, and it's sort of come naturally to me, what needs to be done or how to do things, and you know, um, I guess understanding the challenges that go along with it and the realities that go along with it, and everything that doesn't necessarily fall into place, has to be resolved, and there's not anyone to resolve it other than you. So you just
Right.
do it.
So it's kind of like, hey, the buck stops here and I'm going to make sure I make this thing work.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Um, your story, like I said, is pretty amazing on the skill set that you're doing. It's not like you're building a widget and then selling it. You're taking your skill set in your mind and you're being able to grow with it. Tell me a little bit about the companies that you're working on, the ones that we mentioned in the beginning, Cabin Cool and Mobile Comfort. Tell me a little bit about them and what you're doing with them.
Yeah. So cabin cool and mobile comfort are sort of, they came out of the same technology, really. This was a faculty friend of mine who got a grant to do research on a novel kind of air conditioner. And the underlying thought here is that it takes a lot less energy to cool an individual person than it does the entire room that they occupy. So the Department of Energy, a branch of it called RPE, uh, gave this research group a pretty sizable grant. And as part of the grant, they were required to put some time and energy into what RPE calls T2M, or Tech 2 market, meaning that once they develop the prototype, they can't just let it sit in the lab and collect dust. Efforts need to be made to try to figure out how this is going to become a product in the commercial world. But
Okay.
the people who got this grant, they are mechanical engineer research teams. They're physicists and chemists, and they're not business people. They don't have any interest in being business people. They don't have any knowledge about how to be a business person, and they don't have the time for it. They want to continue their research. So he asked me if I would mind taking on this project to see if there's a way that we could get this product out of the market and into the real world. And there was money in their budget to initially pay for my time. So we created a corporation around the technology, which is Mobile Comfort. We started doing some customer discovery. I was fortunate enough to get some really good funding terms from a very good partner to help develop it from a commercial perspective. And we were on our way trying to figure out how to get this thing to sell to the market. And initially, and still, I guess today, people see it. They like the idea. They think it's really neat. They'd be willing to buy it and pay for it. They ask, where can I get one of these? The problem that we ran into, which made it that a non-viable product, or a company that wasn't going to, be able to make money with just that, was that it was going to cost too much money to manufacture. We figured that at the end of the day, the people buying it at retail would probably pay somewhere around $400 for it. And in order to get that price point, figured we needed to manufacture it for under 120, and we couldn't do it.
Oh,
And so,
wow.
yeah, so the product will, and not only that, we would have had to spend, $1 million or $2 million in tooling and molds and stuff like that. So that wasn't going to work. But you know, the idea was still good, and there were plenty of other potential applications if we could figure out how to make it work.
Okay.
So in the course of working through the company and working with the RPE and the research teams, I made connections, and I had people that were interested in working with the technology and with the product. And what ultimately came of it was a cooling system that we now supply to people who operate heavy equipment, mobile equipment. So
Okay.
same sort of thing. If you're driving your forklift or your Bobcat or whatever it is, our system will cool the person who's operating the equipment, but it doesn't have enough energy or power to cool, say, an enclosed cab. It's good for open air equipment, and it's the first thing of its kind. So
Okay.
that market, and we had fewer limitations with regard to design, and we had a market that was willing to pay a lot more than the consumer market. And so Cabin Cool is currently marketing and selling those air conditioning systems that originally came out of the Mobile Comfort
Oh,
company.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So so who are those customers? Not your clients, but like are they um are they like construction companies that are building it, building a whatever home, a residential area, are those types of individuals are the customers?
Well, it's the contractors that either own or operate that equipment. So people who
Gotcha.
operate earth moving equipment or forklifts in a warehouse or something like that, and those are
Uh-huh.
the people who are ultimately buying the thing. The construction companies typically are not those people. They're general contractors. So it's the subcontractors and the companies that specialize and have that sort of thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's that sort of led to another thing going back to mobile comfort, where yeah, there's now people enjoy the technology that I described on their equipment. Can we get people who are working in those factories also to get some cool air in the summertime?
Yeah.
And that's what mobile comfort is now working on, a system that it will be more stationary, more robust, will is not going to be as feature rich, but more powerful and be able to cool people working in, say, workstations and factories and that sort of stuff. So we're still working on that. We're still testing it and trying to figure out how we're going to market it and manufacture it. It
Hmm.
doesn't have any funding, so it needs investors still. I mean, there's things that need to happen before that works out.
I think that's a really cool strategy. So not only are you getting the individuals and the companies that are building these things for them to be cool, but now the individuals and businesses that are making those things are potential customers.
Right. Well, I mean, so one of our bigger market segments for the cabin cool was forklifts. So forklifts usually run around in factories or workshops or warehouses, and not everyone is on them. A lot of people are
Right.
making the stuff that's in those factories, and they would like to have the same luxuries as the people driving the forklifts, and that's kind of where that spurred from, I guess.
Okay. Okay. Cool. So Blue Vigil, what is that?
That is a company that co-founded in 2016.
Yep.
We originally started with an idea to make tether systems, power tethers, for the drone industry. So something we could bring ground power on a nice long cable from the ground up to the drone. Of course, the drone couldn't go very far, but there's a lot of use cases where people just wanted to sit in the air and stay there for hours and hours and hours at a time. Imagine, for instance, you're the PGA and you're filming a golf tournament and you want an aerial view of the golf course all day long. So
Right.
something like that. Okay. So the nice thing about that technology was it was available. It would retrofit onto available commercial drones. We weren't making drones. It would just work on off the shelf drones. It could be removed and installed at the uh, operator's discretion. So you could use it as a normal drone or put it on a tether. And that technology was really, really hard. A lot harder than you'd think it is. There's so many dynamic power requirements on a drone that even the people who make the drones are not super aware of how dynamic the power demands are. And we had a lot of technical failures, and it was just tough. Eventually, it took some years and a lot of miles and some near-death experiences to we were able to get the thing to work. But just that had a somewhat limited demand to it. So it's not going to be a really robust company if we just sold that. We took a pivot to a product where we're now using the tether technology to bring power up to the drone. But we're also now making a drone that is equipped with a incredibly powerful lighting system. So you can light an entire football field with a drone.
With one drone?
Yeah. And
Wow.
now you have to have power. I mean, you need a generator, but it
Yeah.
doesn't have to be a big generator. It could be like a Polestar generator, but you need a couple thousand watts of power. And that is getting a lot of attention from people who do outdoor construction.
Okay.
So, I'm no longer the CEO of that company. I was for a while up until about 2020. And I wanted to try to find a buyer and exit. The investors like the idea of trying to develop this new lighting system, and it's gone great. If I spend 5 hours a month working with the company, it's a busy month for me. I don't have a lot of involvement anymore.
Hmm.
Um, I am a co-founder. I still have equity in it, and I hope to make millions when they eventually cash out or start generating a lot of cash from this thing. But um, that I there is a point at which my skill set is no longer put to its best use, and there's other people that have um, a better skill set for it. Interesting, though, is that I mentioned outdoor construction is uh, interested in the Blue Vigil product. That customer base overlaps with some cabin cool customers as well. So
Okay.
they do occasionally call on me to see if I can, help that connection be
Get
made.
help that connection go through.
Yeah.
Right. No, that makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah. So I really appreciate your time. It sounds like what you're doing now is you're taking these struggles that these businesses are having, and they're hiring outside business professionals like yourself so that you can then take it to the market. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, I have done that on a contract basis many times where there's a group that is trying to bring a technology to out of the lab and into the real world. I'm not asked to join the company or be the founding CEO, but instead be a consultant or map out a strategy for them,
Mm-hmm.
or figure out how to pitch it to investors, that sort of thing. And so, yeah, I'm happy doing that on an hourly basis. Um, there's only so much of me to go around anyway, so
Right.
can't take on everything, but I enjoy it.
Yeah.
I like this kind of work a lot. I mean, it's satisfying to me to help people, build things.
No, I think that's phenomenal. I think that's really phenomenal. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time today, Todd. If it's okay, I'd like to ask three questions, kind of to wrap things up. They're not business specific. They're just kind of funny questions just to try and wrap things up. Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay, great. So, what is the best advice that you've ever received?
Motion detected at front door.
The best. I'm sorry. Let me close that door.
Sure.
Uh, I mean, it's hard. It's sort of more of an attitude than anything else. My mother used to explain to me that for the most part, the people who, uh, you know, most part people just don't care about my problems. And it's you can't just let people um, dismiss you in a very, I guess, whatever easiest way is possible. And so I've always taken the approach that the best way for me to get out of your face is to solve my problem. It's not going to
Okay.
be kick it down the road or point to somebody else. It's like you're gonna help me with this.
Right. Okay, cool. Okay. If two more. One, if you were to go back and see your 25-year-old self, what piece of advice would you give that person?
Calm down.
Calm down.
Calm down.
Okay.
I was really, really aggressive and had way too much energy when I was a kid. And
Okay.
probably would have gotten a lot further in life and in my youth if I had been a little bit more tactful and uh, restrained in my approach to different ideas and different things.
Okay, okay. And then lastly, what is your best or top client story?
Um, so I, it's not one client. It's sort of more of a understanding of maybe approaching what you have in a multitude of ways. So I was once running a company that fabricated metal products for architectural use, exterior use. And this was after the recession, and it was, in a situation where it was almost insolvent. And the pipeline was for the sales for this was really long, a couple of years from the times architects uh, spec this out to the time it would be put on buildings and get paid for. It was poorly managed during the financial crisis, and the bank asked if I would take a look to see if I could figure out a way to save the company. And the answer was, yeah, were able to figure out a way to put that equipment to use and start generating revenue while we took the couple of years to fill the traditional pipeline. And the management that, was unable to see that potential solution was very focused on what they'd always done in ways that that they were unable to sort of get out of their own way and look around and see that there's other options. It is true that my solutions were putting ourselves in a very competitive environment. We're selling more commoditized types of products at that point, but it's okay. Uh, we had an equal competitive footing. We were able to get a decent market share. We were able to start generating revenue, and by catering to different segments of the market that needed fabricated metal products, say like the glass industry, uh, we were able to start generating a profit in a company, while we were in the process of filling the pipeline where we really had a specialty. And so, one particular client, I mean, I started my career selling used corporate jets, and I got really fun stories about some of those dealings. But you know, they're those are big deals and in very special places, and every business I think has got uh, some of those somewhere. I mean, everyone's got their biggest customers or the best customers. I certainly have plenty of stories like that. But the the bigger uh, issues that you want to resolve are more on on a macro level. It's like, what are we going to do in long term, not just now?
Right.
We can't rely on big deals or big hits, on a consistent basis. If we get one, great. If we can keep chasing them, even greater. But what's the base strategy that's going to get us there? And that's the way I think of things.
That's awesome. That's
Did
awesome.
I answer your question? If I didn't, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, you did. What I wanted to hear is you go kind of give me an example of, beginning to end story with a client and where they ended up, which is exactly what you did with the company making the metal.
Yeah.
So thank you. Thank you. Well,
Mhm.
listen, Todd, I've really enjoyed our time together. I found this to be extremely informative, and I really appreciate your time today.
Not a problem.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, that was Todd Stave. I hope you enjoyed the show. Um, Todd, again, is a serial entrepreneur that goes into companies and takes them to the next level. So I hope you're trying to take yourself and your business to the next level. Um, Keep in mind that if there's ever anything I can do for you, I'd love an opportunity to work with you. So don't hesitate to fill out the form below. Have a great day. Talk to you soon.